This is the discussion table with
Avery, he, they.
Ripley, they, them.
River, she, her.
And we will be talking about mental health and LGBTQ plus topics on this podcast. For this episode, we will be talking about rights and history of people with mental illnesses and people that are LGBTQ plus. So first, I think I will talk about rights of mostly gay men, because there's not much about transgender people in the article that I looked up. So
there's not much for transgender people in anything if you think about it.
Unless you search it up specifically and really dig deep, it is very hard to find transgender people.
Especially all the other articles.
Especially in Canada and stuff, I had to do a project on black transgender people, and I tried to find, it was really hard, especially when you specify it to Canada.
Yeah, there's rarely. I mean, you'll mostly find them, I guess if you go on social media, you'll mostly find them on TikTok and stuff, because they put their trans proud and everything, but in articles, you won't find anything.
No, not really.
Yeah, it's easy to find stuff for the U.S. or North America in general, but Canada is slightly hard. So, mostly gay men in this section. So, the Buggery Act of 1533 under Henry VIII was the original criminalization of gay sex, gay activities, gay men in general being gay. And then because it was homosexuality was criminalized in Britain, it was criminalized in Canada as well, and it was punishable by death. So
that's a bit extreme right there.
It's a bit extreme. In 1861, so 300 years later, more than 300 years later, the punishment for gay activities or being gay was reduced from death to 10 years to life in prison. So again, pretty extreme.
Too far.
Yeah. All laws were targeted at gay men, and they used ambiguous language to catch more people. In 1890, gross indecency was a common charge. So gross indecency is it can be anything, really.
Yeah.
It's just if the court decides you're being indecent, then that's...
To jail with you.
Yes,
You're
to
done.
jail with you.
You're done.
In 1948 and 1961, amendments were made to the law to include categories criminal sexual psychopath and dangerous sexual offender, which means anyone who is likely to commit another offense, which punishes specifically gay people who are not celibate. So gay people who do not have sex. So
Say Hannah.
Everett George Clippert was one of those people. So he was a mechanic from Northwest Territories who was arrested in 1965 for gross indecency, and he was deemed dangerous sexual offender by prison psychiatrists, and because of that, his prison sentence was increased indefinitely. So the mainstream press criticized their decision, and he was released ultimately in 1971. In 1957, so years before Everett George Clippert was arrested, the Wolf and Den report from Britain recommended decriminalization of certain gay activities. In 1967, 10 years later, it was adopted in Britain, and homosexual behavior between consenting adults in private should no longer be considered a criminal offense, was what was put in that report.
Oh.
So, as long as it was between adults who could consent and it was in private, then it was no longer illegal. So,
which basically still means, no kissing in public, no holding hands. You show it in public, you still get arrested.
Yeah.
Which is very dumb.
Yeah, very dumb. So in 1969 May, Bill C-150 decriminalized gay sex in Canada. So in 1969, which was the same year as Stonewall, which, if you don't know, was a protest in the U.S. with 205 protesters. If you don't know, Stonewall was a protest with 205 protesters led by Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera.
Yeah, I think they have actually a documentary on Netflix about the death of Marsha P. Johnson. You see Garcia Sierra a lot. Because they were friends and stuff.
Silvera, I think.
Silvera.
Yeah. She's not talked about as much, but she was just as much of a revolutionary as Marsha P. Johnson.
Yeah.
She should be talked about a lot more.
Yeah. So, in August 1971, small protests in Ottawa and Vancouver occurred to end all forms of discrimination against gay and lesbian people. In 1972, it was a very happy year for LGBTQ plus people, and it was the first Pride celebration, which was a picnic on the Toronto Islands organized by University of Toronto Homophile Association, Gay Action Now, and the Community Homophile Association of Toronto.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
A picnic sounds nice.
A picnic would be so great.
Right? Like, just scrap the whole Pride parade. Let's just go to a park and have a giant picnic.
Yeah.
Free food.
I wouldn't complain.
Free food.
Yeah.
Who's going to complain there?
No one.
So, in 1977, Quebec changed its human rights code to prohibit discrimination based on sexual orientation, and Canada lifted its ban on immigration of gay men into Canada. So that was great for immigrants because, of course, in 1977, it wasn't great all over the world to be gay.
No.
So you could come to Canada and maybe get a slightly better experience.
Not like a whole lot better experience, just a little bit of a better
Yeah.
experience.
Tiny bit better.
Just a little bit better.
Than the other places.
So, on the 5th of February 1981, Toronto police arrested almost 300 men in raids of 4 bathhouses, which were where apparently a lot of gay men hung out. So,
okay then.
yeah. So,
What were bathhouses anyway, though? Was it just like a literal bathhouse? Did you
Yeah.
go there to shower?
like, you go there to clean yourself. So,
Huh.
apparently that was seen as a gay thing, to clean yourself. Or maybe factually gay men did hang out there. I'm not sure.
I mean,
You smell like, okay, that seems kind of gay to me. I don't know, man.
Being clean is gay, apparently.
Yeah.
So, the next day, 3,000 people rioted compared to the 205 in Stonewall. So, while Stonewall is a very important day or event, we should also talk about the stuff that happened in Canada with the 3,000 people.
Which, considering we have a smaller population, is quite surprising.
Yeah. So, I don't know if that event had a name, but we'll just call it the 6th of February, 1981.
Perfect name.
Yeah. So, in 1995, the Supreme Court of Canada ruled the right to equal protection and equal benefit of the law without discrimination, including sexual orientation as a prohibited basis of discrimination. So that means that if someone fires you for being gay, then that's not allowed anymore. So in 2005, our last point about LGBTQ plus people is gay marriage was legalized in Canada. So in 2005. So that's really insane when you think about it.
Right? Because that's, like, super recent. Because I know, like, America didn't get theirs legalized, like, until, like, maybe, I think it was, like, almost a decade after we did. But still, like, considering 2005 is still really, really recent, so.
And it could have been so much better if we just didn't follow Britain.
Right?
Yeah.
Britain is the enemy.
Definitely.
The initial colonizer who went around and they were just like, you know what, this thing? Bad.
Yeah.
Very
Anyone
bad.
who is part Britain or is from Britain,
Yeah.
so sorry, but
Very bad.
you caused this. Well,
So,
that's it, but yeah.
next we will talk about rights and history, mostly history of people with mental health issues.
Okay. I'll start. So, there was a Hotel Dieu in 1714, which was in Quebec for mentally ill women.
Later on, they took in 12 men. The treatment of the mentally ill in New France and British North America were primarily a family responsibility. Patients who couldn't be cared at home, they were placed in jails, poorhouses, and under deplored conditions. I would not want to be part of that.
No, probably not.
Yeah. They treated mentally ill people really terribly back in the day. Or, like,
really did.
before, like, especially in the late 1800s and stuff. They opened up asylums in 1835 in St. John's, New Brunswick, and they also had asylums opened up in Toronto in 1841.
Not that far apart.
No, not very much. There was Dorothea Aldite, who fought for mental health rights, which resulted in a mental hospital being put in St. John's in 1885 and in Nova Scotia. There was a Dr. Richard Buch, who was the superintendent of a mentally insane hospital in Hamilton in 1876. He stopped the cruel treatment of people in the hospital. He stopped using alcohol in patients and stopped restraining them, which was obviously good.
And also, just so you know, mentally insane is now probably not a correct term, but
Yeah.
in those years,
Yeah,
they used whatever.
Yeah, they used like a lot of terrible terms for people back then. And then he also brought in physically ill people into the hospital, and as well as he brought in sports for the hospital patients to play as well. Do you have any notes on that?
Not as much notes. There wasn't really anything for what I found. But I do know is there was an abandoned jail that there got turned into the wing of pyramid buildings, and it finally did get turned into the headquarters of all this, which is at 999 Queen Street. So who knows if it's actually still there.
Yeah, might be.
I kind of want to check that out now.
Yeah. There was also a Dr. Charles Clark who worked for the Hamilton Asylum as well, where he was assistant superintendent. He changed the asylum from a jail to a hospital in 1887. And he also advocated for the term asylum to stop being used in 1893.
Because asylum is
It's like
asylum means a place to go where it's happy and fun and like a utopia, and that's not a correct term.
It was mainly supposed to be like a hospital for people who had mental health problems and stuff.
Yeah.
Clifford Beers was the founder of the mental health movement in North America and the National Committee for Mental Hygiene. He was hospitalized after suffering from an episode in of a mental disorder at 18, and after that he wrote a book called A Mind That Found Itself about his hospital experiences. So a lot of these people, I think, that really fought for mental health rights were people who had mental health rights themselves. Mental health issues themselves.
Yeah.
So there was also a Dr. Charles Hicks who organized the Canadian National Committee for Mental Hygiene, which is now the Canadian Mental Health Association. He fought for rights because he had severe depression as well. He organized the International Committee for Mental Hygiene. He planned for the first International Congress on Mental Hygiene, which was in Washington in 1930. His work also helped to develop child guidance clinics for the early detection and prevention of mental illnesses. You have any notes on any other important people who helped?
There was this one called Hypocrites, where one of the first writers challenges the beliefs, the supernatural causes of mental illnesses. They claimed that mental diseases had a psychological and natural basis. As an astute observer, he detailed a number of mental conditions, but they had different names back then, but I can't find the names now. But as of right now, they are known as phobias, mania, depression, and paranoia. But when you try to explain this to other people, they think a theory of demonology and witchcraft, so they don't really take mental health illnesses as seriously as they should. They just think it has something to do with the devil and stuff.
Yeah, like all those movies where there'd be like this probably person, like in the history and stuff, where this person probably had like schizophrenia and stuff.
Yeah.
But they were like, oh, it's definitely a demon. You know, this person definitely possessed.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And do we have anything else?
In World War II, actually affected the way the public viewed the mental health quite a bit because of the necessity of doing health checks on all their recruits. They found that thousands of people had mental difficulties, and this led to much more research on mental health in the future. Modern rights, there's not a lot, mainly that in Section 15 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, Days says that all Canadians get legal equality under the law, including people with mental disabilities. So you're not allowed to be discriminated in the workplace or fired because you're bipolar or stuff like that.
It's actually very good because it is now, since with COVID going on, it is harder to get a job and it is harder to work. And also know that you have a mental health problem or disorder. It's good to know you won't get fired from your job just because you're different.
Yeah, I mean, generally people shouldn't have been fired because they're different, especially because people made a lot of ignorant assumptions where they just assumed, like, this person, remember that movie? The horror movie where he killed a bunch of people? Yeah, you had the same thing, so maybe we should fire you anyway.
Yeah. But what you see in movies doesn't mean it's true in real life. So.
Especially in movies.
Yeah.
One thing I want to bring up is the movies or YouTube videos that you see on YouTube, obviously, where the title is like exploring an abandoned mental asylum gone wrong. It's like, are you kidding me? What are you doing? Like, you are upholding all these stigmas, and I'll be honest, I did watch them when I was like in grade 7 because I was not very aware of what was wrong and what was right.
Yeah.
And if you guys watch those things and you see that this ghost appeared and choked someone out,
that's edited.
That's edited and it's fake.
It's not real.
It's just so harmful because it's always the mental asylum or mental hospital. Like, just because people died there doesn't mean they're going to come back and kill you.
It doesn't work like that.
And the fact that they use mentally ill people as the whole crux is...
Yeah, a way to get followers, a way to promote themselves or anything like that.
That's just... Clout. It's so harmful. So,
and it's disrespectful.
It's very disrespectful. So if you ever see videos like that, maybe just don't watch them. Don't give the creator views. You can... Obviously, I can't stop you, but I would just say research, spend the time, look at how long the video is, and spend that time researching a mental illness of your choice, because that's a lot better of a way to use your time.
Yeah, because then they're continuing the stereotype that mentally ill people are psychos who, will kill you and might snap at any moment, which is completely untrue.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you do watch those videos, after you watch it, do a bit of research on what they say, and just do the research because...
Yeah, or find better videos. Like, you can find better ghost hunting videos. You want ghost hunting, go find something better to watch.
Just know the ones that are filmed in mental hospitals or all that stuff, those aren't real ghosts. They are edited.
And also because the patients were treated there were probably treated really terribly. They were probably treated like killers and like murderers when none of them probably were. They were probably treated terribly with alcohol and forced to be restrained and all this terrible stuff.
Yeah, so if you ever watch those videos, just know that the people making them are definitely not the most...
They want clout.
They want clout. And they're definitely not the most politically correct, educated. They're not very aware
themselves.
They definitely did not.
They did do it. Because all those videos are actually very popular right now on YouTube, and they were popular way before it too. But
let's be real. If ghosts actually came back in a mental hospital to kill you, it'd be the doctors, if anything.
It would definitely be the doctors.
Definitely. I cannot agree more. Though I feel like some patients, if the ghosts could come back, some patients would as well to seek revenge, but...
Probably on the doctors.
Yeah, probably, most definitely. But do research on the video. Do research on the mental health they're talking about. And definitely do your own research on different mental health problems.
Yeah, educate yourself. Don't just assume based off of movies you watched, because most of those movies are probably false.
And fake, because as we talked before, someone with schizophrenia most likely would not kill you, even if someone told them to.
Like, these movies are so false. Like, they're not gonna kill you just because they have mental health issues. They just need help.
Like, it's not mental illness that makes them dangerous. Like, they can have a personality that makes them dangerous.
They just wanna be heard.
They don't have to be together. They can be separate things. Like, a person who kills people and then also has a mental health problem.
That has nothing to do with
the
them
mental health.
killing other people.
Yeah. Like, you can have mental health, or people that kill people that don't have mental illnesses. So
Right.
just
So it
know
could be
that
the
you
same
can
thing.
separate them.
Just because something happens with one doesn't mean they connect together.
Yeah, it's not always a link.
Yeah, people with mental health problems, people with mental illnesses, they just want to be heard. They
Yeah.
just want some help.
That's all?
I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay, that's the end of our second episode.
River, she, her.
Ripley, they, them.
Avery, he, they.
Signing off.